Welcome back to Share Her Story. In honor of Women's History Month, today's story is about the notorious RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Ruth Objects: The Life of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, written by Doreen Rappaport, illustrated by Eric Velasquez, and read with permission per Disney, Hyperion, and Doreen Rappaport. Women will have achieved true equality when men share with them the responsibility of bringing up the next generation. Ruth's mother Celia wanted to go to college, but her family had only enough money to pay for their eldest son to attend. When Celia married, her husband made her stop working as a bookkeeper. He worried that people would think he couldn't support his family. Celia was determined that Ruth's life would be different. She taught Ruth to be independent, but not to snap back in anger, and to stick to what she believed was right. My parents taught me to love learning, to care about people, and to work hard for whatever I wanted or believed in. Life in Brooklyn, New York offered many treats for Ruth: bike riding, jumping rope, playing stoop ball, and zooming around on roller skates. After school on Fridays, Ruth went to the library and lugged 5 books home. Jo March of Little Women was one of Ruth's favorite fictional heroes. Ruth also devoured the mysteries solved by Nancy Drew, girl detective. Nancy was an adventurer who could think for herself and was the dominant person in her relationship with her boyfriend. Friday nights, her family lit candles for the start of the Jewish Sabbath. In high school, Ruth played the cello, sold tickets for sporting events, twirled a baton at football games, wrote for the school newspaper, and earned a place in the Honor Society. But Ruth's teenage life was not carefree. Her beloved mother was dying. She passed away 2 days before Ruth graduated from high school. My mother was the bravest and strongest person I have known. In 1950, many colleges accepted no women. Many limited the number of Jews, but Cornell University gave Ruth a full scholarship. Cornell, like most colleges then, had restrictive rules for women, but not for men. Women had to live on campus and be in their rooms by 10:30 p.m. They had to wear skirts at dinner. Few women then objected. Despite the rules, Cornell's teachers had much to offer. Author Vladimir Nabokov taught Ruth to be exact in choosing words to get her ideas across. When a Cornell professor was removed from his teaching duties because he had once belonged to a socialist organization, Ruth was stunned. Some lawyers helped people who had lost jobs because of their political activities. Their actions inspired Ruth. I got the idea that being a lawyer was a pretty good thing because you could do something for your society. Women then made up less than 3% of all lawyers in the United States. Martin Ginsburg thought Ruth would make a great lawyer. He was going to be one too. Marty was as outgoing as Ruth was shy and quiet, but they shared common values and their friendship grew into love. When Ruth graduated from college, they married. When Marty was called up for Army service, Ruth got a job with the government, but when she told her boss that she was going to have a baby, she was demoted and had to leave her job in the 9th month of her pregnancy. Ruth knew that being pregnant would not stop her from doing a good job, but that's what most people thought then. Ruth also knew that objecting would do no good. Marty always made me feel I was better than I thought I was, that I could accomplish whatever I sought. Ruth graduated first in her class and was accepted at Harvard Law School. Ruth's class had 9 women and 543 men. Harvard treated men and women differently, too. There were no dormitories for women. Women couldn't eat in the faculty club's main dining room. There was a ladies' dining room. The old periodicals room was closed to women. Only one building where classes were held had a women's bathroom. At a dinner for the women law students, the dean asked each woman why she was taking a place that could be held by a man. Ruth explained, "My husband is in the second-year class. I thought it important for a woman to understand her husband's work." Of course, that wasn't her real reason. Women of Ruth's generation were encouraged to get married, stay home, and cook and clean and care for their families. Men were supposed to earn the money. Ruth and Marty had different ideas. They shared household chores and childcare. Marty took up cooking because Ruth was terrible at it. When they were both in law school, Marty became ill with a rare cancer. He was too sick to go to class. Ruth asked his friends to share their notes from class lectures. At night she typed the notes, then did her own studying. She often slept only 2 hours. Marty recovered completely and graduated on time. We survived that year and learned that nothing could happen that we couldn't cope with. Marty got a job in New York City, and Ruth transferred to Columbia Law School. There were only 12 women out of 280 in her class. Ruth tied for first place in her graduating class, but not one law firm interviewed her. Traditional law firms were just beginning to hire Jews, but to be a woman, a Jew, and a mother to boot, that combination was a bit much. Judges hired the top law graduates to assist them as law clerks, but not one judge offered Ruth a clerkship. Finally, one of her professors persuaded Judge Edmund L. Palmieri, a judge who chose his clerks from Columbia, to hire her. I worked harder than any other law clerk. Sometimes I came in on Saturdays, even Sundays, and brought work home. Judge Palmieri could not have been happier with Ruth's work. In 1963, Ruth began teaching law at Rutgers University in New Jersey. She was paid less than male professors. The dean explained to her that it was only fair to pay me modestly because my husband had a very good job. Ruth knew that the dean would never say that to a man. She was being treated unequally, but she knew objecting might cost her the job. Ruth became pregnant again. She and Marty were joyful, but she didn't tell anyone at school. She wore loose clothing so that no one would notice. She didn't want to lose her job, as she had 11 years before when she was pregnant with her daughter. Times were changing, though. Blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans were protesting for equal treatment before the law. Women were meeting together, sharing their lives, and demanding equal rights. More women attended law school now. Ruth's students asked her to teach a course on women and the law. Ruth found many laws that treated men and women differently. The 1787 notion of we the people left out the majority of the adult population: slaves, debtors, paupers, Indians, and women. The Constitution was a document of governance for and by white, propertied adult males. It was time to challenge outmoded laws. Ruth joined a lawsuit brought by women professors at Rutgers seeking equal pay with men. The women won. Ruth and other lawyers at the Women's Rights Project of the American Civil Liberties Union began challenging laws that treated men and women unequally. Some cases went all the way to the United States Supreme Court, the highest court in the land. On January 17, 1973, Ruth argued her first case before the 9 male justices of the Supreme Court. She wore her mother's earrings and pin to remind herself of her mother's belief in her. She didn't eat lunch. She was so nervous that she worried she might throw up. Her voice shook as she began, but 2 minutes after she started speaking, the fear dissolved. I felt a surge of power that carried me through. Ruth spoke for 10 minutes without any notes. She described how Air Force Lieutenant Sharon Frontiero had applied for a housing allowance plus medical benefits for her husband. Her husband was a college student. She contributed most of the couple's support. Her request to make her husband a dependent was turned down. Ruth reminded the justices that military men received these benefits for their wives, no matter how much their wives earned. This rule treated men and women unequally before the law. I felt a sense of empowerment because I knew so much more about the case, the issue, than they did. The justices ruled 8-1 that the law was unconstitutional. Ruth and her team of lawyers celebrated their victory. Ruth believed that inequality harmed men as well as women. When Stephen Weisenfeld's wife died giving birth, he was self-employed. He wanted to care personally for his son and work only part-time. He needed money, so he applied for survivor's benefits based on his wife's payment of Social Security taxes. He was turned down. Ruth argued his case before the Supreme Court. She pointed out to the 9 male justices that women received financial support for childcare when their husbands died. Men should receive the same support if they assumed full care of their children. The justices agreed. It is not women's liberation. It is women's and men's liberation. Over the next few years, Ruth argued 6 gender cases before the Supreme Court and won 5 of them. In 1972, Ruth had been hired to teach at Columbia Law School. She found injustices there, too. 25 women housekeepers were laid off. Male janitors doing the same work were not let go. Ruth objected. She told Columbia's vice president in charge of business affairs that this was a grave and costly mistake. The university reluctantly agreed after a legal ruling stopped them from firing the housekeepers. Women workers at Columbia had no medical coverage for childbirth. Their pay and pensions were lower than men's. She filed a lawsuit to change this. The women won. Ruth's reputation as a brilliant lawyer grew. In 1980, President Jimmy Carter appointed her a judge to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit. Marty took a new job in Washington, D.C. to be with Ruth. In 1993, President Bill Clinton appointed her to the United States Supreme Court. I pray that I may be all that my mother would have been had she lived in an age when women could aspire and achieve, and daughters are cherished as much as sons. Now there were 7 men and 2 women justices. Sandra Day O'Connor, the other woman on the court, welcomed Ruth. The 2 women didn't always agree on the answer to questions that came before the court, but they both believed that women deserved equal protection under the law. A case involving Virginia Military Institute came before the Supreme Court. This prestigious military school refused to accept women, insisting they were too weak to endure the school's rigorous physical training. The school also claimed that women could not tolerate how upperclassmen would treat them. Ruth believed that women should be able to pursue all opportunities if qualified. Excluding women violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Justice O'Connor agreed. So did 5 male justices. The school was told to accept women or close. It accepted women. If women are to be leaders in life and in the military, men have got to become accustomed to taking commands from women, and men won't become accustomed to that if women aren't let in. Lily Ledbetter was the first woman area manager in her factory. After 15 years of working, she learned that she had been paid thousands of dollars less than the male managers. Lily objected and sued to get her back pay. The case reached the Supreme Court. The justices decided 5-4 against Lily. 5 justices declared that workers had to complain within 180 days after the pay discrimination started. Lily had not done that. When justices disagree on a ruling, they often write a dissent explaining why. On May 29, 2007, Ruth read her dissent in court. She pointed out that it could take much longer than 180 days to find out that you were paid less than your coworkers. She suggested that Congress rectify this injustice. Sometimes one must be forceful about saying how wrong the court's decision is. On January 29, 2009, Lily watched President Barack Obama sign the Lily Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, which allowed workers to sue within 180 days of receiving any paycheck unequal to the paycheck of men doing the same job. Ruth framed a copy of the law to hang in her office. Marty, who had a successful career, took great joy in Ruth's work. He read and critiqued her speeches and articles. His gourmet meals delighted family and friends. Ruth's law clerks loved the birthday cakes he baked for them. Their life together was filled with the joy of family, travel, and music. Most nights Marty had to telephone Ruth to leave work and come home to eat. After dinner, she went back to work. He supported her during her 2 bouts with cancer. In 2010, Marty faced cancer again. This time, he did not survive. I do not have words adequate to describe my super smart, exuberant, ever-loving spouse. In 2006, Sandra Day O'Connor retired. Ruth felt alone until 2009 when Sonia Sotomayor was appointed to the court. Elena Kagan followed in 2010. Yes, women are here to stay. And when I'm sometimes asked, when will there be enough women on the court, and I respond, when there are 9, people are shocked. But the Supreme Court has had 9 men for ever so long, and nobody's ever raised a question about that. I'm a very strong believer in listening and learning from others.